What's up, fight fans? This is Stone Cold MMA. Tonight we're going to be reviewing UFC Fight Night Gunny Nelson versus Santiago Ponzinibbio. Now, our first main event is Gunny Nelson versus Santiago Ponzinibbio. Gunny Nelson is 16-2-1. 3 of his wins coming by KO, TKO, 2 wins coming by submission, and 1 by decision. His 2 losses coming back early 2014-15. Both by decision. Gunner fights out of Straight Blast Gym in Ireland with the likes of Conor McGregor and Artem Lobov. Gunner likes to utilize a very wide karate-based stance and is extremely light on his feet and, in my opinion, very overcalculated. Now, he has some great hand speed and very good accuracy. Gunner does a great job against strikers, using his footwork and stance switches to set up some combinations that eventually lead to his stellar takedowns. Now, from what I've seen in the tape that I've watched, each takedown that Gunny Nelson shoots for, he follows through every single time, pushing straight through the hips, and I'd say 80-90% of the time getting his opponent down to the canvas. Now, when he does get to the canvas, he is very quick to move to mount or an advantageous position, such as the back or side control, anything like that. Now, all in all, I think that Gunner has the tools to get this job done here against Santiago Ponzinibbio, like he's done in the past against guys like Albert Tumenov and so on and so forth. Now, I believe Gunner uses his footwork to set up some takedowns. I see him getting a second round finish after he touches up Ponzinibbio in the first round. Now, the thing that I don't like about Gunner Nelson is that he says that him or his team does not watch much tape on his opponents. And that concerns me a little bit, but I still see Gunny Nelson getting this job done in the second round via submission. Santiago Ponzinibbio, he's 24-3-0. He's got 13 wins by KO, TKO, and 6 wins by submission. 5 of them coming by decision. Now, his 2 losses are both by KO. Now, Ponzinibbio started kickboxing at the age of 13. And was also in the Tough Brazil house going 4-0 and had to withdraw from the competition because he hurt his hand on the show. Now, making his UFC debut back in 2013, Ponzinibbio fights out of the Team Nojira with the likes of Anderson the Spider Silva and has some great Muay Thai boxing with some pretty good combinations. Now, he does a great job at judging his opponent's timing and capitalizing on it. Once Santiago finds his range and pace, he will let go about 4 to 5 strikes at a time with some serious power behind him. Now, all in all, I think he's a well-rounded fighter with some great footwork, power, and some amazing kicks. But I just don't think he's got what it takes here to get the job done against Gunny Nelson. In my opinion, this is just going to be another striker that Gunny's fought before with a good gas tank. And I believe Gunny is going to hit those takedowns, be able to push those hips and get Ponzinibbio to the canvas. Like I said, a second round decision. Now, the bad things that I don't like about Santiago is that sometimes he kind of wails his punches as he runs forward, with his neck kind of out too far for my liking. And I've seen him be caught with an uppercut before. In that exact, I don't remember what fight it was in, but and doing that exact thing, running forward, just wailing, hooks to his opponent. And I've also seen Gunner Nelson clip somebody pretty nicely with an uppercut in that exact scenario before in a different fight. So, like I said, Gunner Nelson, second round submission. We're going to move on to the co-main event here, and that's going to be Joanne Calderwood versus Cynthia Calvillo. Now, Jojo is 11-2-0, 5 wins by KO, TKO, 6 wins by submission. 6 wins by decision. 6 wins by decision. 2 losses are coming from submission. Now, she's fighting at a higher level martial arts with the likes of s.ray. Calderwood started Muay Thai at the age of 13 and is Scotland's first pro female MMA fighter. She was on the season 20 of the Tough and made it to the quarterfinals falling to Rose Thug Namajunas. Now, JoJo has some very good boxing skills and elbows, and is tied for 5th most significant strikes in her strawweight history, and is a world Teymur champion. Now, she's good off of her back, throws some good elbows from wherever she is, whether it be in the clinch, her back, coming in instead of throwing some strikes, she'll pop in an elbow every now and then. Now, she is kind of a slow starter, but once she does get in her rhythm, she does good throwing some combinations, kicks, and basically pushing her opponent forward for the majority of the fight. She does have some pretty nice spinning back fists, and she does not have the best head movement, is one thing I don't like about JoJo. Cynthia Calvillo is 5-0. Wins, 2 wins by KO TKO, 2 wins by sub, and 1 win by decision. She's fighting at a team alpha male with the likes of Uriah Faber, Joseph Benavidez, and Cody No Love Garbrandt. She only trains with the men at her gym, so she said several times in interviews, never with the women. She's a high volume striker that puts high pressure on her opponents right off the bell. She has an amazing ground game. She says the ground is her ocean, and she is the shark. She's got amazing hip movement and can take the back within seconds of getting her opponent to the ground. Now, with that being said, I think JoJo is a tough opponent and a higher level opponent than Cynthia's past fights have been. Coming from Team Alpha Male, I'd say she's got a well of experience behind her already, even though she's only 5-0, 5 fights, pro fights. But I'm kind of on the edge about this fight. I did want to pick Cynthia right off the bat, just because of her previous last fights and how fluent she is on the back and the ground, and how quickly she can move from position to position. It's just the flow she has is nuts. Now, saying that, she has not fought anybody of the caliber, from what I'm understanding, of Joanne and JoJo Calderwood. Now, if we're talking a DraftKings kind of setting, I think JoJo would be a nice underdog, because if I'm not mistaken, Cynthia Calvillo is 9,000 on DraftKings, and JoJo is a nice 7,400. So if you're looking for an underdog to pop in a lineup, I think Joanne Calderwood at 7,400 to Cynthia Calvillo's 8,800 would be a nice spot there to possibly get somebody else in your lineup, like a Jack Marshman or somebody like that. I do think Joanne can make it to a decision. I don't see her getting submitted, even though her 2 losses did come from submission, if I'm not mistaken. But I do think that she gets the job done here with her Muay Thai experience if she does show up to fight. Now, moving on to the next fight, Stevie Braveheart Ray versus Paul the Irish Dragon Felder. Now, Stevie Braveheart Ray is 21-6-0. 6 wins coming by KO TKO, 8 wins by submission, and 7 wins coming by decision. He is fighting out of higher level higher level martial arts. Ray has some great kicks and a very calculated striker. He's got pretty good head movement and is always bouncing around, but he doesn't have the best takedown defense and could use some work off of his back as far as in his guard and working his way back up to his feet, in my opinion. He's willing to bang and has recently defeated 2 vets in Ross Pearson and Joe Lozon. Now, excuse me, from what I've been hearing, and a little bit of my opinion as well, is that Ross Pearson obviously is not the same Ross Pearson as he was when he fought p.felder back in the day. He is on his decline. I would say Joe Lozon is not so much on the decline as Pearson, but he is a vet and he is getting older, and I would say he's been in some wars, and he is getting towards that declining stage. Now, saying that, I don't think p.felder is there yet. I think he has something to fight for, being that he's fighting for his dad that survived some sort of cancer. I don't remember what kind. But back to Stevie Ray. He's got a great cardio, and he's always ready to fight. Taking them mostly on short notice. Keep that in mind. I believe this is one of his UFC fights that is not going to be on short notice. He'll have a full camp for this. He's got good wrestling and a good sub game. And some very hard ground and pound from the top. Now, moving on to Paul the Irish Dragon Felder. He is 13-3-0, 8 wins coming by KO, TKO, 1 by submission, and 4 wins by decision, with 1 loss by KO and 2 losses by decision. Now, fighting out of Renzo Gracie, Pennsylvania, Felder has some pretty good striking behind him, with some wild spinning back fist and spinning back kicks. Now, with 1 in 4 spinning back KOs or spinning back fists, in the UFC history, p.felder doesn't have much head movement, but has great pressure and is always pushing forward, throwing with some intention. Now, Paul, he's got some good submission skills. He's a blue belt in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. Paul has a solid chin, but sometimes gets crazy and throws some wild strikes, leaving his head right on center. I don't like Paul's head movement at all because it's very minimal. He's got some great will to fight. Like I said, fighting for his dad that's recovering cancer, and he's got some great Muay Thai. Now, with that being said, I do think Stevie Braveheart Ray gets the job done here, like he has in the past, winning by decision in 2 great vets in Joe Lozon and Ross Pearson. I think Stevie bloodies up Felder, and I think he wins via a very close 29-28 decision. I'm not too confident in that pick. But I do think Stevie Ray gets the job done here. He's the younger fighter. I believe there's a statistic that says if you're 6 years younger than your opponent, you are 64% chance of winning the fight, or it's been a 64% chance that they have won the fight in the past. So that's an interesting statistic to look at. That's not what I'm basing my pick off of, but it is an interesting statistic. Now moving on to the next fight is going to be r.janes versus Jack Marshman. Now, if you remember at all, r.janes, he is 9-2-0, 1 win coming by KO, TKO, 7 wins by submission, and 2 wins by decision, with 1 loss to decision and 1 coming from sub. Now, fighting out of Zukek, don't know how to say that, Ultimate Martial Arts, with the likes of Sarah Kaufman. He started training at the age of 35 and went pro in 2008, so he is very new to the fight scene. James has great ground game, but is far from a finished product in my opinion. He had 82 significant strikes in his UFC debut is something to note. Now, remembering back to that fight, I'm pretty sure he was fighting a pretty low-level opponent, and they were both just standing there, just literally just standing there banging, throwing winging wild shots, and it wasn't the most technical fight in my opinion. James has a great gas tank and starts throwing right off the bell, and is also a black belt. But what I don't like about James is that he stands very, very, very tall, very upright, and does not move his head a lot. Basically at all. He keeps it right in the center line and isn't a very good wrestler. Like I said, he stands very, very tall and can be hit from overhand right, but has a nice chin. But he was clipped by an overhand right in his last fight. 3-4 times by the same overhand right, if I'm not mistaken, and that kind of concerns me, being that, who was it against? I don't think it was even against anybody that was that good either. That's the thing. He was fighting Gerald Meerschaert. Gerald Meerschaert's not even that good. Gerald Meerschaert just got his ass beat. But I don't know if it was that fight or the fight before that. One of those fights, he just kept getting clipped by an overhand right, and I don't like that one bit, especially when we're moving on to Jack Marshman, 21-6-0, 13 wins by KO, TKO, 5 wins by submission, and 3 wins by decision. 4 of his losses coming from KO, TKO, 2 by decision. Now, Marshman is fighting out of Thriller's Combat MMA. Tiller's Combat, I'm pretty sure it's Thriller's Combat, not Tiller's Combat. MMA Academy. The Hammer has great boxing and amazing footwork. He loves to stand and bang and has some nice guard when he gets taken down. Now Jack has a great head movement and power and a very, very powerful overhand right. He's faced some higher UFC opponents with the Hammer training since the age of 15. I think he has all the tools here to take out Janes with an overhand right. He's also the first Welsh UFC fighter. Solid back low leg kick and a solid cardio. He's a military man. 10 first round finishes. I see the fight being finished within, I would say, the latter part of the first round, early part of the second round. And I'm going to say Marshman does it with a very nasty overhand right, clipping Janes when he's walking in with his fucking head to the fucking moon up there. Yeah, I think he gets clipped with a nasty overhand right by Marshman, either latter part of the first round, early part of the second round, and Jack gets the job done. Moving on, we're going to be on p.craig versus Khalil Rountree. This is a very, very interesting fight in my opinion. This is a pick'em fight in my opinion. Both opponents have a clear shot to victory in this fight, and it's just who gets to that button first. We're going to start with p.craig. He's 9-1-0, 1 win by KO, TKO, 7 wins by submission, and 8 wins. Excuse me. 1 win by KO, TKO, 7 wins by submission, and 1 loss via KO, TKO. Now he's fighting out a Scottish hit squad. Paul has a nice high left leg kick, high left kick, and a great ground game from what I saw in his most recent fights against Pedro. I didn't like Paul's fight. I didn't like Paul's fight IQ whatsoever because he kept trying to hit a judo throw and was just getting smashed with knees and elbows and wasn't smart enough to stop trying to hit that judo throw. Now Paul stands a little bit high for my liking, not as high as Janes, but still, he's a very tall guy. But he just he stands high and he keeps his chin just a little high for my liking. With the next opponent being a powerhouse striker, I'm kind of worried about Paul's high stance and his chin. Now Khalil Rountree is 6-2-0. He's got 3 wins by KO, TKO, 2 wins by decision, and 1 loss coming, or 2 losses coming by submission. Excuse me. No, yeah, 1 loss by submission, 1 loss by decision. He's fighting out of Juan Fight Team with the likes of Damian Maya, and was on the Tough Season 23, and lost in the main event. Khalil has great power in his hands and can catch most people with a KO if he gets you right on the chin, in my opinion. Especially if you don't have the best chin. He doesn't have the best takedown defense and is far from a finished product, as you see in his previous fights. Once he gets taken down, he just is on the ground. He's down there for good. And it's just game over for you. If he's in your DraftKings and he's down in the first round, you better fucking grab another drink or something like that. I don't know. But he's not fucking getting you any points because he's going to ride the rest of the fight out on that fucking ground or he's going to get submitted. or he's going to get fucking TKO with some ground and pound or ref stoppage. But now, in my opinion, since he's changed camps from Syndicate MMA and moving over to Juan Fight Team with Damian fucking Backpack Maya, I have to believe he's going to be working hard on his wrestling, his takedown defense, his ground game, everything like that, to make better use of his standing and his power. And especially in his last fight interview of his first win in the UFC, he went on to say, you know, he stopped thinking this of a sport, and, you know, not worried about the other person that's going in there and everything like that. He said he's now thinking of it as, you're coming in here to hurt me, and I'm going to hurt you before you hurt me, and I like that mentality a lot better. Like I said, I think this is a pick'em fight. I think my earlier decision was to pick p.craig, but I don't think I'm going to go with that. My original decision was thinking that Paul can get the job done by taking down Rountree and subbing him like he does, like he's gotten subbed in his past losses. Now, with that being said, like I said, Paul keeps a very, very high chin and stands very tall. I think that Rountree has the chance to land a nice right hand to Paul's chin and put him out. I'm going to go ahead and change my earlier pick from p.craig in a second round submission. And I'm going to go ahead and change that to the clear Rountree first round KO, just with some brutal strikes. Moving on to the next fight, we're going to be looking at Jesse Willis versus James Mulheron, however you say that. Jesse Willis is 4-1-0, 3 wins by KO TKO, 1 win by decision, and his 1 loss coming to KO TKO. He's fighting out of American Kickboxing Academy with the likes of DC, Khabib Nurmagomedov, and a couple other names. Willis has a great grappling pedigree and hits with some really, really great power. He's got a football and wrestling background and some great takedowns, but a questionable gas tank, as I saw him gas in a higher altitude fight, which was in Colorado. Now, I can understand that. You know, the altitude does take an effect to your cardio when you get up there. Now, saying that, I think he gets the job done here via early first round KO or early second round KO by taking James down to the ground and raining down some heavy ground and pound. James Mulheron is 11-2-0, taking this fight on short notice, and his training camp is unknown. Now, not the best hands or stand-up, but he does throw with some serious power. He's very, very green from the tape that I've seen, and does not have the best takedown defense, if any at all. Now, there is not much tape on this guy. He is a champ in a different organization, but I do think he falls to the great wrestling pedigree, and he gets beaten down within the first 2 rounds. Now, moving on to the next fight, we have Danny Hot Chocolate Roberts versus Bobby Nasty Nash. I think this is also going to be a fucking pick'em fight. This is going to be, in my opinion, fight of the night. There's going to be some nasty leather being thrown in this fight. Danny Roberts is 13-2-0. He's got 5 wins by KO TKO, 5 wins by submission, and 3 wins by decision. His only 2 losses coming, 1 from KO TKO and 1 from submission. Fighting out of the Black Zillions with the likes of Anthony Rumble Johnson and Eddie Alvarez, Danny's a well-rounded fighter with some extensive boxing background. Danny is also he's got some great head kicks, amazing low kicks, and a pretty nice power left. Danny has some good fight IQ, but not the best chin at all. Not the best chin at all. Refer to the Mike Perry fight, where he got rocked about 3 times and eventually got finished by Perry late in the 3rd round. when Perry started to close the distance, and Danny got clipped with a right hand, and then a nice knee. Now he doesn't do the best when being pressured and not having a lot of space to kind of throw those kicks and those wild punches that he has. With that being said, he also doesn't have the best takedown defense, but he does have a great guard off of his back with some subs, but his chin is just too suspect for me. Almost every one of his fights, he gets fucking rocked. Like, I'm talking rocked, like rubbery leg rocked, and I just don't fucking like that. I don't like that one bit. Not that he's not a good fighter. Moving on to Bobby Nash, 8-2-0, 4 wins by KO TKO, 3 wins coming via submission, and 1 coming via decision. Nash's 2 losses are coming from KO and 1 from decision. Fighting at a Fuse MMA with the likes of Miles Fury Jury, and he's got a fucking amazing wrestling background coming out of Michigan State. He's the longer fighter. He is a longer fighter, excuse me. He's not the longer fighter. They have the same reach, but he is a longer fighter with a good reach. Bobby has a great gas tank and a good fight IQ. Bobby has great takedown defense and a heavy left hook, but not the best head movement in my opinion. Also very susceptible to getting rocked. I don't remember what fight it was. I'll tell you in just a second. Bobby Nash. Jingling, Young, whatever his name is, just got rocked. Got fucking rocked. Rocked lobster. His chin was just all over the place. KO'd in the second round. Jingling is a good opponent, so don't get me wrong. It's a good person to get rocked by. Now, like I said, this is going to be a pick'em fight. They both have such a suspect chin. With them getting rocked multiple times in each fight that they've been in. Now, with that being said, I think there's some aspects for Danny that gets the job done here, and there's also some aspects for Bobby that gets the job done here. And I'm starting off with Danny. I think he is a level or 2 above Bobby when it comes to the stand-up portion of the fight, and might be able to catch Bobby on his brittle chin. Now, with that being said, I don't know if Danny has the power in his hands to get that done. He does not throw with that much intent, more so kind of touching your opponent. And don't get me wrong, he's got some heavy hands, but not enough, in my opinion, to get Bobby done and to knock him out. He doesn't have the power that Jingling has. Now with Bobby, I think he's got to put Danny on his ass. He's got to get Danny against the cage. He's got to put some forward pressure on Danny that Danny does not do well with. Danny won't be able to throw the strikes that he normally can throw when he's pressured up against the cage like that. And I think that Bobby Nash needs to pressure him against the cage and use his takedowns to get the game to the ground and edge himself a nice decision win, or maybe a late third round win via ground and pound. And keep this in mind, Danny Roberts has 53% takedown defense, which is not very high with the background wrestling pedigree that Bobby Nash has. Also, with that being said, referring back to DraftKings, if you were looking for a dog and a half to Saturday night, Danny Roberts is 9,100 to Bobby Nash's 7,100. Bobby Nash is a fucking steal in DraftKings, and I advise you to put him in, I'm not going to say as many lineups as you can, but in a good amount of your lineups if you're making some lineups, because I think he gets the job done here against Danny Hot Chocolate Roberts, and I think he puts him away, and I think we're going to see that via his wrestling pedigree. Like I said, very, very great dog to pick on DraftKings, 7,100. I would advise you to snag him up in a couple of your lineups. Moving on to the next fight, we're going to be talking about Neil Two Tap Seery 16, versus Alexandre Pantoja. I don't know how to say his last name. I don't fucking speak any other language. And my pronunciation is horrible, obviously. 6 wins by KO, TKO, 6 wins by submission for Neil, 2 tap, seery, 4 coming by decision. His losses coming 1 from KO, TKO, and 5 from submission, and the other 5 coming from decision. He's fighting out of Team Rhino MMA. He's a BJJ purple belt with some nice stand-up, with a couple regional titles under his belt. He's very, very tough and can take a fucking beating. He doesn't have the fastest speed behind him. He's, if I'm not mistaken, 37, almost 40, right around that 40-year-old age in the flyweight division, which it's the fastest division. The best cardio division. These guys could go 10 rounds if they needed to. And that doesn't look too good on Neil Seery's side. He doesn't throw much power behind his strikes. Neil is great off of his back, very, very active. You will not knock Neil Seery out. I'm not saying it's not possible. He does have 1 loss from KO TKO, but this man's just got a fucking rock solid chin. Rock solid chin. Every one of his fights he leaves just fucking bloodied to it. Just bloodied. And I don't see him getting knocked out here. I believe you need to be submitting Neil Seery, or you better get ready to hear that final bell and have a gas tank to outlast Neil Seery's gas tank. Now, Alexandre, 17, 2, and 0. 6 wins by KO TKO, 6 wins by submission, 5 wins by decision, almost virtually the same as Neil Seery's record. Fighting out of Nova Union with the likes of Talis Ladies and Jose Aldo. He's 10 years younger than Seery and was on Tough 24 season of Champions. He was the #1 seed in that show and is a former FA champ with good Muay Thai. Not the best off of his back and not the best with takedown defense. The Cannibal doesn't have the best gas tank, and that might be a problem against 2-tap because Neil Seery can go, for sure, the 3 full 15. With this fight, I will not be betting on it, but I think that Neil might be able to take the win with this one by edging out a very close decision as long as he doesn't get his back taken. That was my original thought on this fight. Over rewatching fight tape on Neil Seery, specifically his last fight, I don't think that he's going to win. I think that he's getting too slow. Age is finally catching up to him. He was getting hit by 2 or 3 strikes at a time in his last fight, and just the look on his face was like, how the fuck is this guy hitting me, touching me up like this? I just don't think he's got the speed. I don't think he has the timing. I think age is going to play a factor in this fight, and I think the Cannibal gets it done here. I'm going to say a very close 29-28 decision, but like I said, I will not be putting either one of these guys in my DraftKings lineups. I do not think it's a fight to be betting on. I don't normally bet on strawweight fights unless it's Demetrius Johnson, or somebody that is going to secure a lot of takedowns or something that's going to get me a lot of points, because the flyweights don't normally end in, wondrous knockouts or anything like that. Now, moving on to the next fight, we have Charlie Relentless Ward versus Galore Bofando. Charlie Relentless Ward, 1 win by KO, TKO, 2 wins by decision, and his 2 losses coming from KO, TKO, fighting at a straight blast Gym Island with the likes of Conor, the notorious McGregor. He comes at you fast and has a great chin. That's a shitty note I took. He likes to push forward, but is kind of reckless. He does have some good power in his hands, with takedowns, and also spars with Conor. He doesn't have the best head movement and sometimes walks forward with a very high chin. Now take the fucking Let me look at something real quick. Let me look at this. Let me look. Let me look at this. Yeah. I don't know what the fuck I was talking about. Good chin with a note. I must have heard that on fucking an announcer saying that on one of his old tapes or some shit like that. This guy's chin is terrible. This guy's existence is terrible. Excuse me, Charlie, fucking relentless Ward, but you are anything but relentless. The only reason he's in the UFC is because he's Conor McGregor's really good buddy, training partner, sparring partner, whatever you want to call that. He did not show that off in his last fight against Rizika Alassane. And Alassane is not that skilled of an MMA fighter. And he just fucking torched him in the first round. Charlie Ward came walking forward with his fucking chin high as shit and just got destroyed. Not good defense on the feet whatsoever. Moving on to Galore Bofando, 4-2-0. He has 3 wins by KO TKO, 1 win by decision, 2 of his losses coming from other, which is disqualification. They are from illegal knees to his opponent, so technically he is the undefeated fighter. Now, his gym is unknown, and he's making his UFC debut. He is a very flashy fighter that throws a lot of karate-style strikes. Galore has some very strong kicks and very unorthodox striking style, and I think he can get this one done within the first round via some crazy strike to fucking Charlie Ward's head as he's just moving forward with it right in the air. Like I said with that, Galore, I think he's a great guy to have in your DraftKings account at only 8,600. That's not too high. Like I said, I do think he secures a first round KO against Charlie Ward. He's a very underestimated, not known fighter, and I think he comes in here against Charlie Ward and he really dusts him away in the first round. We're gonna move on to Danny the Hatchet Henry. Danny the Hatchet Henry versus Daniel the Kid Dynamite Teymur. Now, the Hatchet has 10 wins, 2 losses. 10, 2, and 0. 5 by KO TKO, 4 by sub, and 1 by decision. Now, making his UFC debut, fighting at a higher level martial arts with the likes of s.ray. He likes to keep the match standing, but also has great takedowns with a good sub game to follow. There isn't much tape on Danny, but from what I've seen, is a well-rounded fighter, that is very game in the cage, and I think it'll be a great fight. Now, Daniel the Kid Dynamite Teymur, 6-0-0, 3 wins coming by KO TKO and 3 wins coming by submission. Also making his UFC debut, fighting at an all-star training camp with the likes of Alexander the Mauler Gustafsson. Nice power in his hands with some good strong lower leg kicks. Has a great power overhand left. Daniel has a good takedown defense and a great fight IQ. Daniel also has a good background in Muay Thai. I think Danny Henry gets the job done here via decision. My problems with Teymur, first of all, I thought it was David Teymur when I first started watching film, so I had to rewatch fucking film on this guy, so that kind of pissed me off. A lot of his 2 or 3 of his KO wins come very, very early stoppages. The ref kind of gets in there way before, in my opinion, this fight should have been stopped. And then one of his fights, the ref does the same thing to him. He stops in when Daniel's getting a shit beaten on the ground, and Daniel contests the ref, tells him, I'm good to go, restart the fight. They restart the fight, and then Daniel ends up KOing his opponent, so I guess he didn't really lose, or he lost, I don't know, but it's not on his record, so that's kind of concerning to me. And he hasn't had the best competitors, and he doesn't have that good of a camp, if I'm not mistaken. But he does have a good camp, excuse me. Like I said, I do think Danny Henry gets the job done here via decision. Now, moving on to b.johns. versus Albert the Warrior Morales. Brett has 13 wins, 0 losses, fighting out of Chris Reese Academy and Dragon School Combat. Dragon School of Combat. He's a Cage Warriors champ and a Titan champion. He started judo at the age of 4 and has a great gas tank. Brett has amazing takedowns and is a judo black belt and a BJJ purple belt. He has he's got a smothering grinding style, and in his UFC debut, he's got 6 takedowns in the first round alone. Brett has great top control and a good fight IQ. Uses his feints well, and is great at catching kicks. He's got a nice uppercut, amazing slams, and an amazing corner team, a professional corner team, championship corner team, in my opinion. Fighting Albert the Warrior Morales. Morales is taking this fight on short notice. He is 7-1-1, fighting out of Systems Training Center and Black House MMA with the likes of Lyoto Machado. Morales starts most of his fights by throwing kicks to gauge his distance for his hands. He's got a nice jab with some good head movement, but Morales is always looking to press forward, but doesn't have the best ground game. Has some nice hands, like I said, but a little bit of a suspect chin. Now I think Brett gets the job done here with a superior ground game and wrestling game, and I think it goes much like his UFC debut fight did, where he closes the distance. I see him catching Albert's kicks early off when Albert's trying to gauge his distance, and putting him on his ass early in round 1. I see him winning by TKO from ground strikes, or most likely Brett winning a very impressive 30-27 decision like his first fight. Like I said, 6 takedowns in the first round alone. Even if he loses this fight, that stat right there, 6 takedowns, I mean, in that fight alone, let me look. In that fight alone, Brett Jones secured 11 takedowns for that win. So we got 11 takedowns, and DraftKings scores takedowns higher than anything nowadays. I think it's 5 points, 0.5 points, if I'm not mistaken. Takedowns 5 points. 5 points. You got 11 of them. So even if he doesn't win, he gets a massive amount of takedowns. That's still a solid person to have in your lineup. In my opinion, I'm going to have him in a shitload of my lineups. I think he secures a lot of takedowns. Morales does not have the best takedown defense, and I think he gets the job done here via TKO or very, very handily 30-27 decision. But even if it does go to the judges, I don't think we're going to be needing the judges here. And we're going to be rounding off our last fight. Leslie, the Peacemaker Smith, 9-7-1, fighting out of Cesar Gracie Jiu-Jitsu with the Diaz brothers. She's very, very, very tough. Has some nice power in her hands with some very nice. She's got a very nice right hook. Smith is good in the clinch and utilizes some nice elbows. Smith is as game as they get in the women's division. She's always pushing forward with some great pressure. Very, very game. She will be moving forward the whole entire match. There is not a point in time in a Leslie Smith fight where she's not moving forward. She's either getting knocked out or she's putting some hands on you. But I like that. And she's fighting against Amanda Lemos, 6-0-1, making her UFC debut on short notice, fighting out of Mariano Brothers' team. There isn't much tape on her at all from what I could find. I did find some tape in Jungle MMA. It wasn't Spanish, so obviously couldn't get much insight on her via the announcers or any kind of stats they were throwing out about her during the fight. Obviously I don't speak Spanish, so I couldn't obtain any of that information. What I've seen, she seems to be a very strong woman. She looks to have a good ground game, a good ground and pound, but has slow stand-up game, but a lot of power behind her punches, from what I've seen. Most of which are wild strikes, kind of lunging forward, kind of winging her arms at her opponent. With that being said, I think Leslie Smith gets the job done here. with her UFC experience and edges out a very nice 30-27 decision, unless she can utilize her ground game and takedowns to finish the fight early. In my opinion, for DraftKings, Leslie Smith at 8,400 is also a pretty nice steal on the undercard. I don't think many people are going to be picking her, which is another reason why I think if she does get a finish, that'll be a nice lower cost finisher, if you want to call it, on your DraftKings lineup. Now, going back to the top of the card, just to run through my picks, we got Nelson, Calderwood, I'm going to say s.ray, Marshman, Rountree, Willis, Nash, I'm going to say Alexander the Cannibal, Bofando, Herny, Johns, and Leslie Smith. Now, my three most confident picks are going to be Gunnar Nelson, Jack Marshman, and I'm going to go ahead and throw Willis in there as well. I think all three of them have a very, very good chance of winning their fight. Now, what I'll say for underdogs as far as DraftKings go and who I will be putting in my lineups to kind of make room for those heavy hitters in there, I think the p.felder, s.ray, both of them being even money at 8,100. I think both of them are a good option to slide in to some lineups that you need a lower level player in. Either one of them can get the win done. I think that fight goes to a decision with them both securing a good amount of points. I'm going to say 40 for the loser, maybe 60 or so for the winner, which is not a bad scoring. I know it's not 100 plus for a knockout, 130 something for a handily win, but I think that's a good lower level people to throw in your lineup that either one of them could possibly get a KO, TKO, or a submission, as well as you being able to supplement s.ray for p.felder, p.felder for s.ray, being that they're both 8,100. It kind of gives you a win, I guess, if you want to say, in your lineup. Jack Marshman is a must-have in this lineup. He is expensive at 9,200, but I do see him getting a first-round KO over r.janes with a heavy, nasty overhand right. Rountree is another lower-level potential for a knockout to have in your lineup. He's 8,500, which is not too bad. I do think he gets the job done here against p.craig, like I said. Jim Willis, 8,700, another nice lower-level potential knockout for the night. His opponent not having much experience in the ring, not in the octagon whatsoever. Like I said, I believe first to second round KO to ground strikes. If not, a knockout on the feet by Willis. Bobby Nash is a must-have for an underdog play. 7,100 to Danny Roberts, 9,100. I think Bobby Nash gets the job done here. I think he secures a couple takedowns, which I said earlier is 5 points apiece. I think that is an amazing underdog to have in your lineup. Seery fight, I said I'm not going to be betting on that, which I agree with that, but Seery is 7,200. If he could edge a very close decision against the Cannibal, that's an interesting play there. I don't think I'm going to be taking that play, but it is a very interesting play. Galore Bofando, 8,600, very underrated matchup here. I do think that Galore Bofando gets a wild knockout within the first round against Charlie Ward. And with him being 8,600, that's another low-level person to fit into your lineup to kind of secure that knockout points. Danny Henry, another very solid dog to pick, underdog 7,200. I think he gets the job done here against Daniel Teymur. I do think he gets the job done here. I'm not sure if he's going to be getting it done via finish, but I do think he gets the job done here, and that is a nice underdog play to stick up in your lineups. R.Jones is a must-have in your lineups, in my opinion. He will be in a lot of my lineups. I believe he gets the job done here. I believe he gets a finish, and I believe he's going to secure a lot of takedowns, just like in his UFC debut. And like I said, 5 points a takedown. You cannot go wrong with that. Last but not least, Leslie Smith is a nice play here. 8,400. I do think she gets a finish. If not, very handily, 30-27. And I'm going to go ahead and slap Joanne Calderwood in that underdog pile to kind of play with. I do think she can edge a decision out here, but I do have a suspicion that she might get submitted because 2 of her losses are coming via submission. Somebody that I'm not going to be playing for the night, but I might put him in 1 or 2 lineups as an underdog, is Santiago Ponzinibbio. I don't think he gets the job done here, but he might have the opportunity to edge out a decision if he can tire Gunnar Nelson out in the later rounds, being this is a 5-round fight. So like I said, underdogs are going to be Joanne Calderwood. p.felder, s.ray is a nice play. Bobby Nasty Nash is a must. And Danny Henry, nice solid underdog play. And Lisa Smith. Good luck on your DraftKings lineups there, ladies and gentlemen. Like I said, this is the first installment of Stone Cold MMA. My name is Alec, or you can call me Sir Alec Cushington if you want to follow me on Instagram. And until next time.